Most riders think they know the rules. Wear your helmet, signal your turns. Maybe know the exact decibel limit for your exhaust. But here's the truth. There are laws on the books that nobody talks about. We're talking real regulations, written, enforceable, and weird as hell. Some are ancient, some are brand new. Some could get you fined, towed, or even arrested, and you'd never see it coming. Because nobody teaches this stuff. Not in rider safety courses, not at the DMV, not even your mechanic knows half of them. So today, we're shining a light on the weirdest, least known motorcycle laws in the US. Some are harmless, some are just dumb, and a few, they can absolutely ruin your day. Let's start with the one you're probably breaking without even realizing it. Number 1. It's illegal to ride with a helmet that covers your ears. You heard that right. While most safety courses, and common sense, tell you to gear up with a full-face helmet for maximum protection, there are a few places in the US where covering your ears while riding is technically against the law. The logic? Lawmakers want you to be able to hear your surroundings. Some states have outdated statutes that prohibit any headgear or equipment that impairs your ability to hear ambient noise. And yes, they lump full-face helmets and even some modular helmets into that category. Now, do cops enforce this one aggressively? Almost never. But it's still on the books in certain jurisdictions, which means if you get pulled over for something else, a grumpy officer could tack this on just because they can. Even weirder, these same states often don't require a helmet at all. So it's perfectly legal to ride bareheaded at 80 miles an hour, but not with a helmet that wraps around your ears to protect your skull. Wrap your head around that one. Moral of the story, always check your state's specific helmet laws, especially if you ride with Bluetooth speakers or custom lids, because sometimes the safest choice gets flagged as non-compliant by the people who have clearly never ridden a motorcycle. Number 2. License plate frames are technically illegal. You know that little decorative license plate frame you slapped on with your dealership's name, or the one that says something like "Loud pipes save lives"? Yeah, in some states, that alone can get you ticketed. Why? Because technically, anything that partially obstructs your plate, including slogans, borders, tinted covers, or even screw caps, can be classified as a visibility violation. Some states even take it a step further. Even if the entire plate number is visible, if any part of the state name, registration sticker, or motto is slightly blocked, it's considered a violation. States like New York, Pennsylvania, and Texas have been known to enforce this strictly. There are riders who've gotten hit with $150 plus fines for having a chrome frame that barely touched the edge of a word. And if you think, well, mine's totally readable, that's not the point. Most of these laws are written with zero tolerance, so it doesn't matter how visible it looks to a human. If a cop or camera can claim obstruction, you're toast. It sounds absurd, but in some cities, cops actively look for this stuff as easy ticket bait. So if you're rocking a plate frame, even a tasteful one, you might want to take it off. Because as dumb as it is, it's still a real law. Number 3. Underglow lights are legal, but only when you're parked. You've probably seen it. Bikes glowing like spaceships with neon strips under the frame, wheels lit up in blue, purple, and green, and you might think, hey, that looks kind of cool, I should try that. And you can, but in many states, only if your bike isn't moving. That's right. Several states, including California, Florida, and Illinois, have laws that allow underglow or accent lighting as long as the vehicle is stationary. The moment you start moving, those same lights can become illegal for impersonating emergency vehicles or distracting other drivers. Even the color matters. Blue and red? Forget it. Amber? Depends on the state. White? Sometimes fine, but only if it doesn't shine forward like a headlight. It's a mess. And the real kicker, some states say underglow is allowed as long as it's not visible from the front or rear. So basically, you can install them as long as nobody can see them. Makes total sense, right? The confusion gets riders in trouble all the time. They wire up LEDs thinking they're street legal, ride through town looking like a Tron cosplay, and boom, pulled over for unauthorized lighting. So, if you're going for style points, do yourself a favor and check your state laws, because that cool $30 Amazon light strip can turn into a $300 fine real quick. Number 4. Some states ban right turns on red for motorcycles only. Here's one that feels like it came out of a bureaucratic fever dream. In a handful of states and cities, motorcycles are not allowed to make a right turn on red, even though cars can. Yep, same red light, same intersection, same traffic rules, except you're on two wheels, so now it's a violation. One example? New York City. In NYC, no one can turn right on red unless a sign says otherwise. But in other places like parts of Oregon and certain counties in Washington, local ordinances or interpretive enforcement rules have made it so motorcycles are discouraged or even fined for right on red maneuvers, citing stability, visibility, or vague safety concerns. That means if you roll up on your bike, come to a full stop, check traffic, and go, you might still be breaking the law. Meanwhile, a guy in a Ford Expedition behind you gets the green light treatment. It's rarely enforced until it is. Usually by a cop who's having a slow day or wants to make a point. And since it's such an obscure rule, most riders don't even realize they broke it until the citation hits their glove box. The bottom line? Know your local red light laws, because what's totally legal on four wheels can cost you on two. And the whole "I didn't know" defense doesn't hold up in court. Number 5. Colored headlights can get your bike impounded. Yeah, really. We've all seen it. A bike rolling up with a bright blue or even purple headlight. Sometimes green, sometimes red. It looks unique, dramatic, custom. But here's the catch. In most states, that's flat out illegal. And in a few, it's enough to get your motorcycle impounded on the spot. Federal regulations require headlights on all vehicles to emit white or yellow light only. Not because they hate style, but because those colors are universally recognized for forward-facing visibility. When you switch to blue, red, anything exotic, you're crossing into territory reserved for law enforcement and emergency vehicles. Some states, like Virginia and Michigan, have been especially aggressive about this. If your bike has a blue tinted HID or LED setup, or one of those RGB color cycling halo kits, that's all the excuse an officer needs to pull you over. And if they really want to make an example of you, they can cite it as unauthorized lighting equipment and slap on a mandatory impound. Even worse, some aftermarket kits are marketed as street legal when they absolutely are not, at least not in your state. Moral of the story? Stick to white or DOT-approved yellow, because while a blue headlight might turn heads for a second, it could turn your whole weekend into a tow truck bill and a court date. Number 6. Carrying extra fuel on your bike is technically illegal. Ever strapped a small jerry can to your luggage rack just in case? Maybe you're doing a cross-country ride or heading into the backwoods and you want that extra peace of mind. Seems responsible, right? Well, depending on where you are, it might be illegal. Several states, including California, have strict hazardous materials transport laws that technically prohibit carrying fuel in unimproved containers. And yes, that can include the little plastic fuel bottles marketed specifically for motorcycles. Even more absurd? Some city ordinances classify any external fuel storage on a motorcycle as a violation unless the container is DOT or OSHA approved, sealed, and mounted in a way that passes fire inspection standards. In other words, not bungeed to your luggage rack. The reasoning? Safety and fire risk, obviously. But the enforcement? Totally inconsistent. One cop won't even notice it. The next might hit you with a citation for transporting a flammable liquid improperly, a fine that can go well over $100 depending on the jurisdiction. And if you're in a national park or riding across state lines, the rules can change mid-ride. So, What's the workaround? If you really need to carry extra fuel, make sure you're using an officially certified container, and even then, don't assume it's legal everywhere. Because the law may not care that you're being cautious, it only cares that you're non-compliant. Number 7. Riding with earbuds is illegal, even if you're using one. Pop quiz. Is it legal to ride with music in your ears? Most riders assume it is, especially in the age of Bluetooth helmets, intercoms, and phones. But in several states, wearing earbuds or in-ear headphones while riding is completely illegal. Even worse, some states only allow one earbud, and if you got both in, that's a ticket. Take California, for example. The law says you can't wear any headset covering or earplugs in both ears. That means full earbuds, AirPods, or even wired headphones are banned if they block both ears, regardless of volume or awareness. Other states like Maryland, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania have similar rules, and yes, this applies to motorcycles just as much as cars. What's allowed instead? Helmet-integrated comm systems that don't fully block the ear canal or single-ear communication devices. But anything that isolates you from external sound, even for music or navigation, can be seen as a violation. And yes, riders do get stopped for it, usually when they're wearing visible earbuds or during random checks. So what's the move? Stick to open comm systems or single-ear solutions that comply with your state's laws. Because getting pulled over for riding with headphones isn't just embarrassing, it's completely avoidable. Number 8. Handlebar height limits are real and ridiculously specific. You ever seen those choppers with ape hangers so high the rider's hands are above their head? Looks wild, right? Well, in a lot of states, that's not just uncomfortable, it's illegal. Most riders don't realize this, but nearly every state has a law that limits how high your handlebars can be, and these laws get extremely specific. In states like Texas, Florida, or Ohio, your grips can't sit more than 15 inches above the seat. In others, like California, the limit is the shoulder height of the rider. Let that sink in. Not the same height as your shoulders, not above your shoulders. You can get pulled over just because your bars sit a few inches too high when you're sitting upright. And yes, it happens, especially at biker rallies where officers know they'll spot a few easy targets. You get pulled over, measured like a damn science experiment, and then handed a fix-it ticket or worse, a full citation. Even weirder, the measurement isn't always taken from the ground. Some states measure from the seat base, some from the lowest part of the grip, and others from where your arms naturally fall. It's a legal mess. So if you're running high bars or planning to, check your state's spec first. Because it doesn't matter if you think it's cool. If your hands are reaching for the heavens, the law might come down on you hard. Number 9. You can get fined for missing reflectors, even if your lights work perfectly. You've got your headlights, taillights, brake lights, all bright, all functional. You think you're good, right? Not if your reflectors are missing. That's right, in most U.S. states, it's a legal requirement for motorcycles to have DOT-approved reflectors in specific locations. Usually amber on the front fork and red on the rear sides. And guess what? If you swapped out your fairings, changed your fender, or just thought they looked ugly and peeled them off, now you're in violation. Even if your lighting setup is top tier, the law doesn't care. Reflectors are a separate requirement and they're enforced, especially during inspections or random traffic stops. Some riders make the mistake of assuming LEDs replace the need for reflectors. They don't. Others assume reflectors are optional on customer-modified bikes. They aren't. Even imported bikes that meet EU standards often fail US reflector rules, which means you can get ticketed just for owning one that wasn't updated. Most cops don't care unless they're looking for a reason to pull you. But if you give them one, like speeding or a loud pipe, don't be surprised if that missing reflector gets added to the ticket stack. So double-check your bike. It may seem like a small detail, but leaving it off could cost you way more than it's worth. Number 10. It's illegal to warm up your bike in your own driveway. You roll out of bed, fire up your bike to let it warm while you gear up, maybe grab a coffee. Sounds harmless, right? Well, not in certain states and cities. Because depending on where you live, idling your motorcycle in your own driveway can be illegal. Yep, laws aimed at reducing emissions, noise complaints, or just general public disturbance means that in places like California, Colorado, and New York City, letting your bike idle unattended for more than a few minutes is a finable offense. Some municipalities go even further. It's illegal to idle any vehicle for more than 3 to 5 minutes, even if you're sitting on it. The law doesn't care if it's cold outside or if you think you're protecting your engine. And the wording is vague enough that a neighbor who's annoyed by your exhaust note could file a noise complaint or snap a photo and report it. Next thing you know, you got a notice from the city, or worse, a ticket on your seat. The intent behind these laws is understandable. Less pollution, less noise, but they completely ignore the needs of riders, especially those on older carbureted bikes that need a little warm-up time. So, check your local ordinances, because letting your bike idle while you zip your jacket might seem harmless until it costs you $150 for environmental misconduct. Number 11. Some states require you to keep both hands on the handlebars at all times. Ever take your hand off the bars for a second to stretch, adjust your mirror, give a friendly wave? Well, in certain states, that quick gesture might technically be illegal. Several states, including Nebraska, Georgia, and Kansas, have laws that require riders to maintain both hands on the handlebars at all times while operating the motorcycle. No exceptions for waving, signaling, or scratching your nose. It's one of those laws that was likely written with good intentions, probably aimed at stunting or reckless riding. But it's written so broadly that even normal behavior falls under the violation umbrella. In practice, the law is rarely enforced on its own. But just like tinted visors or plate frames, it can be used as a pretext to pull you over or tack on an extra violation. And if you're unlucky enough to get an officer who's in a bad mood, or looking to hit a citation quota, you can get slapped with a fine for something as harmless as resting your throttle hand for a few seconds. So, what's the move? Use common sense, of course. You're probably not getting pulled over for giving a peace sign. But just know that some states really do expect you to ride like a mannequin. 2 hands, all the time. Number 12. You can get fined for not sitting properly on your bike. Sounds ridiculous, but it's true. In a few states, including North Carolina, Ohio, and Indiana, laws exist that require a rider to sit on the seat with one leg on each side of the motorcycle, and yes, that exact phrasing shows up in the legal code. It means if you're sitting sideways while stopped or resting both feet on one peg while coasting into a parking spot, you're technically in violation of the law. These regulations were likely designed to prevent unsafe riding behavior or weird passenger antics. But they've been interpreted broadly enough to bite solo riders for simply relaxing or shifting posture for a moment. It's even worse if you got a passenger. Some states specify that both the rider and passenger must be seated astride the bike, or else you could be hit with a fine for unsafe operation or improper riding position. And yeah, some cops really do enforce it. Usually in small towns or during events when they're looking to pad a citation count. Moral of the story? Keep it clean and by the book, at least until you're off the public road. Because the last thing you want is a ticket for sitting wrong while riding a machine that already demands your full respect. Most riders have no idea these laws even exist, and honestly, that's not your fault. Because no one tells you this stuff. Not your DMV instructor, not your dealership, not even half the cops enforcing it. But ignorance won't save you from a ticket, or worse, an impound. So now that you do know, use it. These weird little rules might seem petty, but they can make or break your ride in the real world. Got any bizarre laws in your area that deserve a spotlight? Drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear what nonsense your state came up with. And if you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned, because I got a lot more riding wisdom coming your way. And trust me, some of it's even legal.